Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to thank my many colleagues who have been here this morning to talk about this critical appointment, Secretary of Education, that oversees all of our K-12 and higher education in this country. It's a principle that so many of us care about, and I've heard passionately from so many of my colleagues here today about what public education meant to them, what it means to our country, what it means to our democracy, what it means for kids of all different backgrounds to come together in a public education system that is guaranteed by this country. And the dangerous views of this nominee, Betsy DeVos, as Secretary of Education, who has said repeatedly she will not protect the investments that we have made, but rather has a philosophy that we should take money away from our public education students and put it to vouchers to private schools. That will undermine our whole entire democracy, and it is why we have heard across this country from so many parents and teachers and students and grandparents and business leaders who are urging senators from every state to vote no on this nominee. Certainly we can do better. Certainly the last election was not about sending our K-12 and higher education system into chaos. Certainly not at a time when one of the most important things people care about is the stability of our economy, the ability to get a job. Fundamental to that is being able to know you can go to a school no matter where you are or where you live or how much money you have and get a good education. We need to keep that, and no one wants to send that system into chaos at this time. That's why people are speaking out. And as I mentioned earlier today when I was talking, I've heard from thousands of people in my home state who have contacted me with concerns about this nomination of Betsy DeVos to Secretary of Education. An overwhelming number of them are people who spent time in our classrooms with our kids, and that is our teachers. Many of them have spent decades in public schools, dedicating their own lives to helping our children learn in school districts of all different sizes, and those teachers deserve a voice today. So here, I thought I would take a few minutes to tell my colleagues a little bit about what I'm hearing and what they believe why we should oppose Betsy DeVos as Secretary of Education. I had a teacher from my hometown of Bothell, Washington. She wrote me and said, "Public education is the basis of equality for all students in this country. Our founding fathers recognized the importance of having educated citizens and the need to provide it for all of our children. Education for profit doesn't work. And we need to do what we can to make sure we fight privatization of our education system." I heard from another woman in Central Washington who works with low-income students. And as she noted, taking Title I funding and putting it towards private schools will be devastating to small communities. She is echoing what I am hearing from rural communities across my state and what I know I'm hearing from many other senators who have talked to me about what they are hearing from rural communities in their states. From Seattle, I heard an educator told me that she wanted to see fellow educators, or at least people with some experience in our public schools, running this department. That's why she opposes Betsy DeVos. No experience. A retired teacher from Mercer Island asked me to oppose this nomination. She has spent 37 years teaching children in our public schools. On the other side of my state in Spokane, a 28-year teaching veteran says strengthening public education is the best thing we can do for schools like hers that are located in high poverty districts. In Prosser, a public teacher and a former lawyer told me he is committed to both the public education system and the Constitution, and he called the nomination of Betsy DeVos an affront to both, given what he called her track record of undermining public schools and the need for separation of church and state. And he said only through access to high-quality learning opportunities can we remain free. Heard from a teacher and also a parent from Issaquah who said, quote, "This nomination is very disappointing. In order to make America great again, she said, we need fully funded schools where teachers have the time and the resources to prepare students to be lifelong learners. In Monroe, Washington, a teacher for 35 years says she's afraid of what DeVos could mean to public education. From Camano Island, a retired teacher of 31 years said all children deserve the same access to high-quality public education. Teacher from Vancouver School District tells me that our public schools deserve better than someone who has called them a dead end, adding that the Secretary of Education should be an advocate for the principle of free, quality, and equal education. And she worries that if we don't defend public education from the views of Mrs. DeVos, then we have failed the future of this democracy. And a succinct message from Dave in Seattle. In all caps, he writes, absolutely no. Mr. President, those are just a few of the many, many people I'm hearing from. There are literally thousands and thousands more, and I know that is true from all of our colleagues here. Why? Because people are making their voices loud and clear. They want a Secretary of Education with real experience in public schools who's truly dedicated to strengthening our public education system across the country. So I am proud to stand with my constituents and the public school educators from Washington State to urge our colleagues to vote no on Betsy DeVos. Mr. President, we've had a good number of senators here today to talk about this. I know that we are going to be spending Monday afternoon, Tuesday morning, into the night, Monday night, hearing from many other senators and having a very robust debate. And I hope that all of those who are listening and everyone in this country stands up at this time and thinks about what public education means to this freedom and this democracy. And I hope, and I know they will, as they have been, continuing to let their voices be heard to their elected representatives.